Let the dragon consume you! Enemy sighted. Stop the payload! Stop the payload! In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to episode 58 of the Bird Watchers. I'm your host Ryan. In this episode, we're talking about the play-ins and the playoffs so far. So what you just heard was over 100 Atlanta Reign fans at Battle and Brew losing their minds over this match. This week of matches in general. It was an exciting event, and that's the match we're going to talk about today is going to be Shock versus Reign, and we'll talk about the outcome of that. A little bit of news at the top. Battle and Brew Thursday, September 12th at 6 p.m. will be the next match we'll be watching for Atlanta Reign. It's a little loose. I'll talk about what team we end up playing, or we're going to end up playing this week. So as you know, usually we give a lot of time for the announcements of these watch party events, but because of the nature of the playoffs, not knowing until right when the moment that the matches end, so you can decide who's playing who, it's going to be a little bit late, right? And as we go further and there's less teams, that's going to be the case. So I'll keep you updated as fast as I can on those. I want to apologize for missing last week's episode. I'm back, right? But for all those people who did check out the featured podcast, which was my other podcast, Toast Talk, and enjoyed it, thanks for listening. Thanks for the feedback. It's good to know that people like this and also liked listening to that as a holdover. And if you want to keep up with that, Toast Talk, you can go to the Twitter. You can follow it on SoundCloud. Anywhere podcasts can be heard, Toast Talk is. If you can find the Bird Watchers there, you can find Toast Talk as well if you want to continue listening to that. But all that aside, let's go ahead and just hop straight into it, right? Play-ins. So play-ins were the first week of technically the playoffs, where you had the teams vying for those two remaining spots. Sorry for any noise in the background. Peak hours here in Atlanta. But we started with Hunters versus Charge. We had Charge taking this 4-1, kind of expected. We then had Dragons against Fusion. Dragons winning 4-2. That was unexpected. Kind of busting my bracket from the beginning. I think everyone's bracket's pretty much busted at this point, so I don't feel too bad about that. We then had Dragons versus Spitfire. Spitfire taking this 4-3. This was a match a lot of people were talking about because it went the distance. Like I said, when Dragons beat Fusion, no one kind of expected them to step up after the last half of their season kind of started to dwindle after all that spike of excitement people had watching their matches. So they did step up, but Spitfire also stepped up here to be the team that everyone knew they could be. We then had Dynasty versus Charge to round it out here for the play-ins, and Dynasty take it 4-1. This to me was surprising because I thought, when Dynasty was doing the whole two separate roster thing, they kind of lost focus, where Charge was, they had Nero and they had that set roster and were doing well to wrap up the season. So I thought they would push through, but that wasn't the case. So then playoffs started, right? We start off with Dynasty versus Titans. Titans are still Titans. They're used to being here. They're comfortable. They win this one 4-2, knocking Dynasty to the loser bracket because it's double elimination. Remember that. We then go to Gladiators versus Spark. Gladiators 4-3 it here. Another great match, exciting match people were talking about. Went the distance. This is what you want to see in a playoff situation. When you have matches going the distance like this, that means that the teams that are here are meant to be here. We follow up with Excelsior versus Spitfire, which was a 4-1 on Excelsior's part. Surprising to me, or I think most people, because, New York has a tendency to flake in the playoffs. You've seen the sandbag memes. They're all over the place. But here they stepped up and, they moved forward and knocked Spitfire down a peg. And then we have the match we're going to talk about and the noise you heard from the beginning of the podcast, which was Atlanta Reign versus Shock. So we can go ahead and hop into that match because that's the one we're going to talk about today. And then we'll go to the rest of the bracket and talk about where we are for the remainder of the playoffs. So we start off on Busan just to preface this, Reign versus Shock. There's two rivalries I kind of look at is New York versus Reign and then Shock versus Reign. And I'm still kind of playing with which one I want to be our rivals. I like the hype we have when we play the Shock. But New York is in our bracket, and I love the 5 VD peoples, or the 5 DV guys, 5 Deadly Venoms. We wouldn't be the Atlanta Royal family without them. So that rivalry works better, right? To play them, and we've beaten them, but they were super close games, or I say close games. They were situational, but they were exciting to play them. But it's also exciting to play the Shock, and we kind of always have a chip on our shoulder when we play them. So I don't know, both great teams. So it's great to even think of those two. This is our first year, so it's great to even think of those two as possible rivals, right? But let's hop into it, right? We start with Busan. Mecha Base. So on Mecha Base, Shock get the first cap. They confidently hold it until about 85%. Reign end up flipping it and pulling this one back and steal this round from them to start this round 1-0. And then we go to Downtown, and this round is a back and forth with Shock taking the round at the end. Masa does have some great boob control that you see a lot of here, and this becomes a theme. The way he deals with Striker's Reaper and Sinatra's Doomfist to kind of throw off their trajectories and their entries. Like they're entering and leaving fights, like don't give them the path they want kind of thing. But Shock do take Downtown, so that ties the rounds up 1-1. We go to Sanctuary next. And Reign are dominant from the beginning and end this, beginning to end, mostly due to Erster being dangerous on Doomfist. Like I said, he plays a bunch of characters, and it's crazy how good he is on all those characters at this level. So Reign do end up starting this series off 1-0, taking Busan. This takes us to Numbani, and Shock start on attack here. So Reign start with Bastion, but Shock take this long way around to catch them out of position. They get a value pick, and this leads to a 0.1 cap. Shock then turn this into momentum, and the Atlanta Reign never really get a solid foothold on defense. Shock end up full capping with 2:27 on the clock, which is a good amount of time for Numbani. Reign go on attack next, and we aren't able really to get anything going. We struggle to figure out what comp to choose to deal with Shock's defense at the start, and then after almost winning a team fight towards the end, Smurf, Moth, and Violet have this great stall that was very annoying to allow the rest of their team to return and seal the deal to full hold us here. Shock take this map and type the series 1-1, so we have a match. Horizon Lunar Colonies next. Then we have Reign attacking first here. Reign have this difficult time on 0.1 due to Sinatra's Doomfist heroics. I mean, so we can't cap until overtime, right? On 0.1. And, Sinatra continues to be a menace, and the Reign get held around 0.2. But it's one of those cases where, like, I'm a person who, I will admit, everybody knew Sinatra was a good tracer. And then Goat's meta happened, and then Sinatra was a good Zarya. And now we're in this meta, and, Tracer's not back in the meta, even though it's role lock, but his Doomfist has been insane. This man has proven that he's worth every penny that people used to make a joke. Since his salary was public early, we used to make jokes about how much he was making, if it was worth it, especially with the first year of the league. I hope he gets paid max, whatever max veteran contract is, whatever they call it. When we go to next season, he deserves it because this man has stepped up to the plate every time he's been needed. Anyways, I digress. We go to Shock on attack here on Horizon Lunar Colony. And Shock can't find an answer to Rain's Bastion May. We come at Bastion May, the utility along with side with Baptiste and Sigma is great. They're only able to get like a real attempt in overtime, which results in an intense, drawn-out battle that you have to see because it's insane. And I couldn't imagine playing in that situation because I would fold and my team would get rolled and everybody would yell at me. But yeah, it's a drawn-out battle and it leads to a full hold actually and a map win for the Reign. So we go back up in the series 2-1. Then we go to our map of the match, which is Gibraltar. I don't know how many times I've ever had Gibraltar as map of the match. Not one of my favorite maps. I don't like playing it much. I don't like watching it much, mainly because of that second point. It's anxiety. But Shock on attack here first. Reign are aggressive from the beginning. They don't let up. Shock have to endure this slugfest for every inch they get. But now is a good time to mention how good Striker looks on Reaper. So if I didn't mention that to begin, we have Striker in the lineup for Shock, and that's someone we've known has always been on the roster. People have wondered what would be his role, what would he play, and Reaper seems to be it. He's a menace on Reaper. Great decision-making, great timing on everything, has many value ults, which is very difficult to do with how predictable Reaper fits into this meta currently. So that, props to him. Shock get held about halfway through point 3 on attack here. Reign go next on attack, and Shock make it difficult for the Reign at 2 main points here. So the first one is interesting because when I originally watched it, I had to go back and watch this naturally. But the first time I watched it, they're under bridge. There's that cave room, right? Not the big one that has the stairs that leads to the top, but the one that just has the big health pack in it, the fat pack. And they get in there, and in this meta, you have a lot of shields, and they bunker up, and you have Baptiste. And I'm wondering why this fight's going back and forth and why Rangers don't go in the room and deal with it to get them out of there. And I noticed that the cart's not moving because they got the timing perfect to where they're able to turn that room, that fat pack room, into a perfect bunker with shields and create a ability loop to keep themselves enclosed. So Reign has to engage by actually going inside the room, which is dangerous because that space is controlled by Shock. But Shock doesn't have to come out because they can contest from that room. Very annoying, burned a lot of time off the clock. And the second point I mentioned is on the spaceship, which essentially Shock get in the position where the cart's right under spaceship. So to engage, we have to start the fight with them having complete high ground and being able to set up from spaceship to attack from the top. You know how high ground advantage works. It works. They do it perfectly. They play this perfectly. They burn all the time off the clock. I can't fault them for how well they handled this situation. So they hold us short of 0.2 and they take the map, tying up this series 2-2. This takes us to Lijiang Tower, and Command Center is the first one. So we have another control map. Remember, first of 4. So control, if you go the full 7 maps, control isn't your last map. So we end up having 2 control maps throughout the series here. Lijiang Tower, Command Center is our first round. Shock start off on control with the first cap. Then there's some back and forth through the middle of this round until Reign begin to dominate and take the round win. At this point, I think the commentators mentioned Gator is doing 10k more damage than Choi Hobin. It's kind of insane. People knew that Sigma was insane when it comes to damage from a tank, but to see the discrepancy between 2 players playing the same role, 2 very good players playing that role. I mean, oh yeah, sorry, by the way, Gator's in case you didn't know. 2 main tanks on the stage, right? Insane. But you find out why when you see his stats at the end of this match, which you need to go check out because it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Even though it's a long match, he does so much more damage than Choi Hobin did. It's kind of embarrassing, but I digress. We move to Night Market then. So Reign take Command Center, move to Night Market. Sorry, Reign are absolutely dominant here, in big part due to Bebe's Symmetra pick. So there's a smart choice from the Reign since Shock can't effectively respond with their own Symmetra, considering their best tracker is also their best Doomfist, which is Sinatra. So they would have to give up one of those characters, and you can't really give up the Doomfist in this meta since you need him to punch through shields. So we get to essentially get that Symmetra pick unabated because we have Symmetra and Doomfist since Erster's on Doomfist. And this is a great example of how having flexible players opens up these opportunities to push certain rounds in your favor. So Reign ended up taking this map and we go up 3-2 in the series. Kings Row is next, which, is a map that's perfect and is a beautiful angel that no one should hate. We start off with Shock on attack here. Shock get off to a shockingly fast start due to Sinatra and Stryker causing havoc during each team fight. They're at their peak right now. They're playing, perfectly, in my opinion. There is a point where Gator gets a pretty sick Sigma 4K stop to stops the cart for a bit, just for a moment on point 2, but then Shock pick it up, keep the momentum going in full cap with 3 minutes and 12 seconds remaining, which is a lot of time on Kings Row. Rain go on attack next, and we actually answer the call by capping all 3 points with more than Shock. So we end up with 3:25 remaining, which once again is shocking. So round 2, Shock goes first, and they keep that same energy. They progress a bit past point 2 before being stopped. Rain follow up, and we struggle on point 1 and burn a lot of that time, and then get through streets on point 2, streets of point 2, still struggling, but we pull it off again. And then there's a final fight where the Shock kind of step up and roadblock us, and they hold to push this to the final map. So we're tied up 3-3, taking us into Rialto, and Shock start on attack. Moss starts us off with a huge 4-man boop. Well, it's a 1-man boop, comes back up, and then 3-man boops because we start off with Bastion here. So we're set up on that corner. Kind of embarrassing, sets the pace here because they follow this up with making good time through point 1 and 2 before we make a mounting, solid defense close to point 3 to hold them from full capping, which was great. Rain go on attack next. We shock the Shock with a Bastion on offense. We say screw it. Everything, it's just to us. I swear we're a team full of trolls, right? We're a team full of trolls who are really good at the game. Because we say it's 3-3 in the series, cards on the table. This is one of those rivalry matches, a big match people have been talking about. A lot of people tuned in. Screw it, we'll play Bastion, pirate ship, and not even full pirate ship. Just we're playing Bastion. So yeah, we're on Bastion, and they're shocked, literally, because we're able to roll through point 1 and 2 with over 4 minutes on the clock in point 3. But then they get their stuff together, they realize what's on the line, and they just stop us. This is, I've said Stonewall a lot in the past, and this is a great definition of it. This is where, Shock stops us. They have an amazing defensive effort that ends in a jaw-dropping ending in Rain's favor. Go watch it. You'll get that same anxiety everyone had to an ending that Rain wins. The home crowd goes wild here. We went nuts. You heard it. I had to share that with everybody. You've probably seen the video, which hopefully, it's something that the team saw. I hope everybody on the team saw that because it was insane and it was a great experience, and the rest is history. So we win. We beat the Shock 4-3, not Shock into losers. I think that was surprising. Yes, I had in my bracket that happening, but I think to everyone else, people know we're good now. I think that's gone. All the controversy's gone. We're a good team. But Shock is a great team. So, a lot of this that people said was C9, I don't know, because there was a lot of booping. There's a lot of maneuvering there. If it was a straight up fight, they won the fight. Go find the screenshot of the health bars and you'll see what I'm talking about. But I think my verdict here is that I think everyone can agree that this is probably objectively one of the most exciting matches of Overwatch in Overwatch League history, in Overwatch history. I'll go there. The emotions that night were insane. The drinks were flowing. You know how it is. You know how we get. So what does this mean? So this means, okay, we won 4-3. We go back to the playoff brackets now. So we had, in losers, we had Spark playing Dynasty next. That was the following Saturday. And Spark knocked Dynasty out 4-1. You've probably seen the videos of Ryu Jaehong and Toby's reaction to that. A lot of controversy about interviewing losing teams in such, peak situations of such heightened emotion. We won't go into that here. Maybe we'll touch back on it later. Then we had Shock go against Spitfire in losers, and Shock 4-0 it here, knocking Spitfire out. So, Spitfire made it in, but they just didn't have the performance to keep them here. So they are now out. Dynasty is now out as well. We then had in winners, we had Titans play Los Angeles Gladiators. Titans winning that 4-2. And then that was followed by our next match, which we end up playing New York Excelsior. And New York Excelsior took it 4-2. Sorry about that. We look different in this match. The Excelsior match, we looked more lackadaisical. I don't know if it's the two match situation in one weekend kind of thing that tends to creep on players, or you can only prepare for one team. So we prepared for Shock naturally, since that's where we wanted, especially when we've beaten New York, not to say that they were meant to be beaten, but we beat them twice. So prepare for the team you haven't, you got to face first. That makes sense. And then see what you can do against New York. But New York was prepared for us. They outplayed us on Bastion, which was interesting. SBB stepping up to the plate. Shout out to him. But what does this set us up for the upcoming week? So the teams we have left are Reign, Spark, Gladiators, Shock, Excelsior, and Titans. So on Thursday, as I mentioned, the team we are playing are Spark. We're playing them at 7. Battle and Brew, be there at 6, right? Get there early because those seats go fast. Like I said, for the Shock game, I think we ended up at a count of about 130, 140 people. It was loud in there, as you could tell. So that was super fun. Thursday might be a little more light. People got to work. It's in the middle of the week. We then have Gladiators versus Shock that same night to find out who wins there. And then on Friday, we're going to have Titans versus Excelsior. So the weird thing that happens here, right? So let's talk about Reign, as if I don't talk about them enough. So what's weird here is if we win, right, then we find out who we play Saturday. Then if we win Saturday, we find out who we have to play Sunday. And then if we win Sunday, we go to the grand finals. So this is not a cakewalk. This is probably the biggest endurance test for any team, the biggest path you've ever had to travel to get to grand finals. Granted, you get a week of break before grand finals happen in Philly, but that's still a tall order to ask. So at this point, Reign, I just say Reign has gone above and beyond where I think anyone expected them. Even the fans, we were optimistic. We love our team, but come on, this is crazy what they're pulling off here. And we lost to Excelsior, but it should be fine. Hopefully we get to face them again. Either we're facing them or Shock again. I see that happening unless Spark somehow knock us out. I'm going to be confident and say that might not be the case. But Spark, they've stepped up to the plate. Should be fun. So let me stop rambling. That's the episode. As usual, you can find me or reach me at Gmail at thebirdwatcherspodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at podcasttbw. That's where I'm active. Also very active on Reddit at the Birdwatchers Podcast. Keep an eye out there for me constantly getting in arguments. Then on YouTube, like I said, if you listen to podcasts everywhere else, podcasts can be heard. Well, some people have YouTube Premium and want to listen there. I'm there as well. I'm trying to keep it up to date. It's usually posted not too long after the episode goes up, so you can find it there as well. Also on Facebook and Instagram, but not as much at the Birdwatchers and the Birdwatchers Podcast. That being said, until next time, so naturally, I'm coming back with week 3. We'll talk about the results of what happens there. But outside of that, as usual, thank you for listening, and I will catch you all next time.
I have destroyed more of your kind than I can count.